gonna hide this tape when I'm finished. If none of us make it, at least there'll be some kind of record. The storm's been hitting us hard now for 48 hours. We still have nothing to go on. One other thing. I think it rips through your clothes when it takes you over. Windows found some shredded long johns, but the name tag was missing. They could be anybody's. Nobody trusts anybody now. We're all very tired. Nobody trusts anybody now. There's nothing else I can do. Just wait. R.J. McCready, helicopter pilot, U.S. Outpost number 31.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains language and themes not suitable for all audiences, as well as spoilers for the content being covered. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the High Tech Low Life podcast. Welcome back to it. I'm your host Eric, and with me as always is Josh.
I'm Josh. Good job doing a radio voice.
Thank you. And how'd you like the "with me as always" thing? Is it like echoing in your head like that episode of Wayne's? It wasn't an episode. That movie Wayne's World.
Yeah.
Where Garth was afraid
always is
with
Garth.
me as always. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched that like sometime earlier this year.
Great movie.
Still a solid movie.
Yeah, like I recently saw a list of the SNL properties and how well they did, and it's number one with a bullet.
Oh yeah, yeah, by a million miles.
And number two is, I believe, Wayne's World 2. So
yeah.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about Saturday Night Live or the movies it spawned. We're here to talk about cyberpunk bullshit, sort of, in theory.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much this week, but that's ostensibly why we're here.
Sorry, I got distracted trying to come up with, is there a Saturday Night Live movie that could fit in with our concept? And I think the closest would be MacGruber.
Yeah, that would be the closest.
But not quite.
Blues Brothers. Actually, Blues Brothers was number 2.
Yeah.
Wayne's World 2 was number 3. No cyberpunk SNL movies, sorry. Maybe in the year 2060 there will be one.
Possibly. Oh, I hate the idea of Saturday Night Live going on that long.
Yeah, but it will. It is eternal. This week we're watching The Thing, John Carpenter's.
Yes.
You might have heard of it. It's not cyberpunk at all.
We're going to watch John Carpenter's Thing.
We're going to get all over it. It is on a lot of lists of cyberpunk movies for some reason.
Yeah.
It's clearly not in any way.
Yeah, before we watched it earlier this week, yeah, that's a plug for our Patreon.
Yeah, we watched it on Patreon if you're interested in hearing us watch it.
Yeah, before we watched it, I hadn't seen it for, I don't know, something more than a decade, I think. And having seen it on a bunch of cyberpunk lists, I was going, is there anything cyberpunk about this? I can't think of anything. And after we finished, no, there's nothing cyberpunk about it unless...
Other than the fact that the guy who directed Escape from New York directed it.
Yeah, unless you count that, or just body horror as a but I don't know. Anyway. It's a good movie. We're going to talk.
There is a
about it.
spaceship at one point.
Yeah, that's cyberpunk. Cyberpunk always involves spaceships.
There was kind of one in Neuromancer. So
no.
I mean, he got into space.
There was a space station. I mean, and it wasn't an alien spaceship.
No, but look, I'm pulling whatever strings I can to make this fit. It's not going to fit. It's fucking. It's October. We wanted to do scary movies. We're going to do another one next week, and
it's going to be spooky,
and it's just for fun. So once in a while we'll break tradition.
We can break format a little as a treat.
Yeah, as a treat, and it is like it's adjacent to the cyberpunk world with its director and music and vibes. Yeah. So nobody's gonna fight us on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Before we dive into dystopia talk, I wanted to actually I guess we can announce next week's project early because it relates to something I wanted to mention real quick. I believe our original plan next week was to do the movie Hardware, which was recommended by one of our listeners.
Yes, the 1990 Richard Stanley film.
Yeah, it was directed by Kevin on our Patreon. And
nope, it was suggested, not directed.
Yeah, you don't know. Could be a pseudonym.
Okay, I suppose that's true. Kevin, if you're Richard Stanley, get at me. I want some more inside stories behind The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, Josh loves that movie. But yeah, it was recommended by Kevin, who I neglected to mention also recommended Cyber City 080808. We had two people recommend that, and I mentioned the other one. I like to give, when people recommend stuff, I like to try to call them out by name because we love recommendos and we want them to keep coming. And it won't always happen. Plus, sometimes I get like Patreon names and YouTube names and email names all mixed up.
Yeah, there are a bunch of different formats out there. We got a compliment on the Cyber City 080808 YouTube post. Like,
oh really?
Somebody out there loves it when we talk about anime.
Oh, well, we'll have more of that coming, I'm sure.
And I said, I'm glad somebody does. I always feel out of my fucking depth.
Yeah. We need to we need to hook up with like an anime expert that we could have on for anime episodes.
Yeah.
If you are one, let us know.
Yeah, sure.
Anywho, I just wanted to let Kevin know we tried to do Hardware. It is not available, short of going out and purchasing a hard copy. Or
alternate means. Wink, wink, wink.
Yeah, and that's assuming the 7 Cs are in your favor. That I don't know how many people are possibly seeding that one.
There are actually quite a few. I looked while we were trying to figure out how available it was.
Well, it's going to remain on the list, and instead of that, we're going to do the extremely cyberpunk and extremely spooky Jason X.
Yeah, it's a movie with. I mean, I have faint memories of it. There definitely is nanotechnology. I mean, so that's kind of cyberpunk, and
he's got a metal mask instead of a hockey mask. So therefore, how is that not cyberpunk?
David Cronenberg's in it. So that's good.
It's fine. Look, guys, Halloween's going to be over soon. We'll get back to doing our normal thing. Just let us have a little fun.
Yeah.
They are. They're not complaining. Literally nobody has complained. I'm projecting.
Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, thank you to everybody who sends us in recommendos. We try. Sometimes we fail. But one day Hardware will make its appearance on this podcast, I assure you. All right. Let's talk about current events, dystopia news. Do you have anything?
Arnold Palmer's dick.
Enough said.
Yeah. I actually would like to talk about something horrible that happened in the past couple of days.
So excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. But I think it's actually kind of, it goes with stuff we've talked about before and cyberpunk dystopia in general. So, the other day, Israel killed one of the leaders of Hamas, a guy named Yahya Sinwar. Is that right? Yeah.
I've only read it. I've not actually heard the name spoken.
Yeah. And to celebrate. I put this in quote marks. I don't know. They put a video all over the place online. And it starts with, it doesn't look like, I hate it, but I've gotten terribly used to seeing videos and pictures of a lot of mutilated people, a lot of mutilated Palestinian people over the past year, slightly over a year. It doesn't look like that initially. It's like a drone of this like partially fucked up apartment building. It's a drone shot, and then it goes in and it starts hovering, and you see a guy who is covered in dust with one arm throw a stick at the drone, which is hovering in the room with him. And it is a really, I describe it because it's a really, I think it's a really interesting illustration of what's going on, and in part how the ruling powers are maybe misjudging what they think they're doing.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
I think they were suggesting like, look, we got him, or we got one of them, is not doing the job that they are intending. Okay, so this guy, like the whole story is, this guy is not huddling behind hostages in a tunnel under a hospital to begin with. And he's not, he's not there triggering a suicide vest. The dude is literally sitting in a fucking easy chair, half blown up. And the last thing he does is just like, I can't do anything else. I'm going to throw a stick.
Yeah.
That's it. And
pointless act of defiance that
he
doesn't know anybody's going to even see.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's not a great look.
Yeah, they're very, I don't know. I feel like sometimes there's a disconnect between what some of these propagandists think get people going, and what actually, I don't know. Maybe there's different groups of people that respond differently to different things.
Yeah.
But I feel most people, no matter which side you think is right, would react to that with some amount of horror.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as you have any, I don't know, empathy in you whatsoever.
And they've also done an absolutely incredible job of amplifying the dude's message, because he had done a number of interviews. I don't think I'd ever seen this guy's name before.
And now his interviews are all going viral.
Yeah. And boy, the guy talks good and makes some very, very salient points. He was not a, scream, bearded scream at the sky firing an AK-47 guy.
The stereotype, yeah.
Yeah, he's very much no, this is a struggle for liberation. We have parallels with the civil rights movement in the United States, and so the IDF has done a very good job of undermining themselves because they're bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it could work in Israel. Like, I don't know how Israeli people feel about it. It's maybe it works on some people in America. I don't think it's working on anybody in Europe.
No, probably not. I think it's just, it seemed like I ran into it accidentally because, like I said, it starts differently than most of.
That's another part of the dystopia, is how, I don't know, how common that shit is now.
Yeah. And I don't know, the whole thing just seemed surprisingly cyberpunk to me. This, drone flies in after a tank blew up a building.
Yeah, not the good part of cyberpunk.
Well, and then there's the punk part of cyberpunk.
That's true, yeah.
He's got nothing left. He's going to throw a fucking stick.
Pretty punk.
Yeah. So, that's fun.
Yeah, sounds great. I'm glad I didn't run into that one.
Yeah.
I feel like when we were playing Shadowrun back in the day, we didn't fuck with drones as much as they have become prevalent in our actual dystopia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
they were a
that's true.
thing for sure, but I don't feel they weren't the part of cyberpunk that
Yeah.
interested me.
Yeah.
But they're definitely becoming a major part of the reality.
Yeah.
Just neat.
So you got any recommendos?
No, actually, I finished. Okay, let's fully transition out of that incredibly bummer conversation topic.
Yeah.
Lift myself up into happier things. Okay, we need like a bumper to play, but
Love
like
lifts
children laughing.
us up where we belong.
Something to change the mood. I finished Shogun. It's a masterpiece, pretty much.
Yeah. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, loved, very much enjoyed that. And we started watching another fairly Japan-centric show. We watched, we're about halfway through Pachinko.
Oh, I have not started the second season yet, which has just finished.
Yeah, I think so.
I loved that first season so much, and it is a rough emotional ride.
Yeah, I was my wife watched it before me, and she sold it to me as
fun.
Not fun, but she said it was like Studio Ghibli is what she compared it to, and the music I can see that.
Yeah,
some Studio Ghibli stuff. But yeah, so far there's been some pretty heavy shit. But anyway, that's what I'm watching, and so far liking.
I so love the credits of that show.
Yeah, the opening credits are great.
Just those credits do so much fucking work.
Yeah,
like because the show for our audience, if I don't remember if I ever fully described it. It's this multi-generational
multilingual,
saga,
national.
Yeah. And it's this drama about this woman and her children and grandson. And it's like this, it's a really well observed, it's just like, it is basically the definition of a drama show.
Oh, it's very, high drama.
And it could so easily be a nightmarish bummer because a lot of bad things
it was not great
people
in Korea.
Yeah,
in the 20s and 30s, as it turns out.
Yeah, a lot of
and the 50s,
and for Korean people in Japan in general.
Yeah.
It has the potential to be a huge bummer, and I mean, I'm fine with movies that are huge bummers if they're also good, or TV shows same way. But the credits on this show, I strongly recommend our audience look them up on YouTube. Is the credits every week are so fucking joyful that it somehow counterbalances the
drama.
This is very sad. And it's all I don't remember how many of the episodes are directed by him, but Kogonada did it, who also did the movie a couple of years ago, which we'll eventually have to cover after Yang.
Okay.
Starring our boy Colin Farrell. Partially created by and largely directed by a guy named Kogonada, who is a really incredible Japanese-American filmmaker. Anyway, great fucking show.
Yeah, I'm liking it. However, we got to push on because we're 20 minutes in. Do you have any recommendos?
Yes. Okay, number one. There is a new Neil Stephenson book that came out this week. Author of Snow Crash, which we talked about before.
I
am 90%-ish done with it, and it's pretty good. It is not cyberpunk at all. It is entirely set in the 1920s and 30s.
That didn't stop Dark City from being cyberpunk.
Also true. So he's back on his historical novel bullshit, which I like. And it's about a young woman who is half Ukrainian and half American and ends up being a spy for the Soviet Union. So interesting. It is the first of a trilogy? Question mark. Pretty good if you like Neil Stephenson's historical bullshit.
I don't have any opinion on it at all because I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever read one. I think I've only read Snow Crash.
Yeah, well, we'll get to Cryptonomicon eventually, and ideally, I will be able to force the Baroque cycle on you because I think it kind of counts.
Real quick before you go into your next one,
Mhm.
this is just checking in for at Damon Kowarski on YouTube, seeing if you got through the through the intro this time, or if you tracked forward to the end so you could timestamp it for us.
Good job calling him out.
He says sometimes he gets to the intros and he doesn't. So I
Yeah.
figured if I give a personal shout out, maybe that'll get him to
Maybe.
listen to our intros.
Yeah, who knows?
And I actually do appreciate the timestamps, and I've gone through and penned them all because I figure that might be useful for people on YouTube. But I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I agree. Second recommendo. It is not out yet, but next week, a book called Carla's Choice comes out. It is written by Nick Harkaway, who is an author of a couple of books that we will eventually need to read. He's one of my favorite authors. He wrote, it was definitely one of my favorite, like my top 5 books of the 2010s, called Gnomon, Gnomon.
I do love gnomes.
Yeah. And then just a year ago or so ago, he put out Titanium Noir, which was really good. He is, in real life, the son of John Le Carré, a writer I've talked about a bunch on various shows, who wrote Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, etc. And this book that's coming out next week is a continuation of some of his father's characters and is getting really good reviews, and I am excited for it. So I thought I would let people in our audience know about that, because I know at least a handful of them have read those books.
So we're going to call this a pre-commendo.
Pre-commendo. Also
Fucking gross.
Yeah, it's not good. Also, not a recommendo, not an anti-recommendo. I hope Eric gets on watching it, because I would like to discuss it. Alien Romulus. I watched that this week.
Oh, almost watched it yesterday. Did not.
Yeah, I almost suggested you watch it.
We'll talk. We might do some alien stuff in this podcast at some point. It's pretty close. It's closer than the Thing. So
It's got androids.
It's got androids.
It's got androids. It's got class.
Sheep, it's got dreaming.
Yeah.
It's got a power armor suit kind of sort of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see how that goes when we start running low on material, which at the rate we're burning up movies might not be that long.
Yeah.
All right. We need to stop. We need to get to the meat.
We do. Oh, and so much meat there is.
So much meat. In this episode.
Arguably too fucking much meat.
The meatiest episode we've ever had to cover.
I don't know. It's neck and neck with Existenz.
Yeah, it is. I think it's meatier than Existenz.
I think it's meatier, but not as much as both of those are miles ahead of everything else.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I thought maybe in order to save a little time, because I feel like we're going to be jibber jabbering a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe everybody's kind of pretty familiar with the Thing, so we can just kind of dive into the recap. And
yeah,
we don't need to. We love the movie. We don't need to give our.
We both think it's very good. That's it. Okay,
Yeah.
We're done. Bye.
Anybody who's seen it and likes scary movies and isn't turned off by the meat.
A lot of meat
Is gonna like
a lot of meat, a lot of goo.
Yeah. So we can skip the preamble and just get into the recap and do our thing.
Yeah. Okay. My first thing I want to say about the Thing is, dear audience, how do you remember the movie 1982's The Thing beginning?
They can't actually answer, Josh. They're not. It's not a two-way thing.
Is it with a dog being chased by a helicopter across some snow? Because that's wrong. That's not how the movie opens. It begins with a fucking flying saucer. shooting down into the Earth's atmosphere like a goddamn 1950s spinning flying saucer.
Yeah, that surprised me. I didn't remember that.
I almost every time I watch this movie, including the second time I watched it this week, I was like, oh yeah, flying saucer. Because I think virtually everybody forgets about it, like as soon as the movie's over.
It's weird how our brains edit that out. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it adds anything, honestly. And our brains just kind of edit it out themselves.
Yeah, but I do, like, I put some serious thought into this, actually. Because when we were watching it, and then later when I was watching it again, I was like, oh yeah, flying saucer. Fuck.
Did you forget between?
Yeah, I really did. I was like, I started, like, usually what I do when I'm doing my notes is I'll start there. I'll start and like, okay, this movie made blah, blah, blah at the box office. I'm looking at IMDb, during the credits and shit. And I start typing like, okay, dog running across snow. Oh, wait. That's not how this opens, even though I just saw it 2 days ago. So, like, I'm of split minds about the UFO shot at the beginning. Number one, okay, it's kind of unnecessary. Everybody, like, in my mind, the movie starts with dog running across snow, helicopter, hunting dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if this was 1982 and the movie started with
a dog hunt,
and you spend the next, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes of the movie before any sci-fi shit shows up. Like,
okay, I get what you're saying.
I guess my question is, does the UFO at the beginning establish a sense of tension? Because, okay, the UFO shows up, on fucking frame one, basically. And then you spend the next 30 minutes going, the fuck did that UFO have to do with anything? We got a dog. We got these guys in an Arctic base. You don't, like, does it establish a sense of tension in that first 30 minutes that wouldn't be there? Because, okay, if it's just a helicopter and some guys on a base and a dog, you'd be like, I don't know, is this a war movie? Or,
well, plus this movie came out the same week as E.T., so maybe you're thinking there's an E.T. in there.
3 weeks after E.T.
3 weeks after? Okay, well, they could have just added it in then in the last 3 weeks as like a cameo.
Yeah, could have. Just like in, I think that was the second of the prequels.
Oh, right. Shit, I forgot that. That actually, I was saying that as a joke, something stupid that would never happen, but no, a movie actually did that.
Somehow E.T. has returned.
I think you're right in 1982. I think our more mature 2024 brains probably don't need it. Mainly because before this movie came out, we would have been inundated by trailers and promos and people talking about, we would have known that it was sci-fi without. But in 82, yeah, maybe they need that.
Well, and I don't even know that it's an 82 thing. It's you and I have been exposed to the thing to the concept of
against
the thing
our will.
You're
talking about a different thing.
Yeah, a different thing. Boy, this episode is gonna
happen a lot.
We've been exposed to this for 42 years now. The thing has been exposed to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, even if you mentioned when we were talking when we're recording the commentary that you had only seen it in like maybe the past 10 years or something, you absolutely at some point picked up on the thing. It's like a shape-changing monster or something, and it's got Kurt Russell. I mean, so we have been somewhat steeped in the thing.
Yeah.
So for us, like, maybe it doesn't work that way, but I think it honestly for just
it's named The Thing. It's not.
Yeah,
you're right. Now that means something, but in 1982 that didn't mean anything.
Yeah, for a virgin audience going in, does that UFO at the beginning create a sense of tension that carries you through a bunch of guys dicking around and playing fucking ping pong, or
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something to think about.
That was the first 5 seconds.
Yep. All right, Antarctica, winter, 1982. We have a snowfield with a dog being chased and shot at by a helicopter.
Yeah, and this is the opening scene. Nothing came before this. If there is, I've already forgotten it.
Nope. Nope. Definitely. It cuts right from the words "the thing" to a dog. There is no UFO.
It's just funny because I'd forgotten it too. When you were bringing up, does it start with a dog? I was like, yeah,
Well, obviously.
what's his fucking joke here?
Yeah.
You reminded me.
It's truly unbelievable. It's like unless you are actively considering it and like made literal notes on your screen, it's like the UFO at the beginning doesn't exist. And then an hour into the movie, you're like, oh shit,
there's that
the
UFO.
I forgot about that. It's kind of wild. And I really do wonder, like, if you showed virgin audiences like no UFO cut, like, would there be a difference? Because I bet there might be, but I have no idea how to quantify it.
I don't either.
So we got a dog being chased by a helicopter. Then we got a collection of buildings. They look like shit. It is the American base. We see a sign. It's Research Outpost 4. And then we go inside and we meet the guys. It's a bunch of dudes fucking playing ping pong and fixing snowcats and getting drunk and losing computer chess to Adrienne Barbeau.
Smoking weed.
And then pouring scotch into the computer because that was cheap at the time. Yeah.
Their only fucking computer.
Yeah. It's a great time. Which is honestly almost exactly what I understand those Arctic research bases are like.
They're just burning through Apple IIe's and scotch.
Apparently that's I mentioned this on the commentary track. There was a murder or what is assumed to be a murder in Antarctica 20 years ago, something like that. And like the guy died by methanol poisoning, which is something that's totally possible, especially if people are doing shit with like homemade stills. It can happen accidentally.
Yeah, you gotta dump that first batch because it's pure poison.
Yeah, but you'd expect the scientists and chemists and shit on site would know, the dangers and how to deal with that. Except for the fact that nobody has really ever bothered setting up a still down there because everybody knows that being drunk is an integral part of doing this section of field science. So there is basically a fully stocked open bar all of the time in pretty much all of the Antarctic research bases.
And it's always ice cold.
Yeah, that's true. So that's one of the things that makes people assume it was murder. Like nobody would fucking still up fucking toilet wine.
Yeah, this ain't MASH, motherfucker.
Yeah, this is
it's
like
Korea.
Yeah. So anyway, fun fact, a guy died in Antarctica. Look it up.
I mean, lots of guys died in Antarctica, but this guy was murdered.
Yeah, this guy was murdered in recent history. So the guys in the American base, including our hero, McCready, who is Kurt Russell, looking as sexy as he ever has. He's got like the Farrah Fawcett haircut.
Yeah, I guess. Sort of.
You'll see his Yosemite Sam hat later.
The full beard.
Yeah.
What's a better leading man name, McCready or Jack Burton? Because they're both top tier.
They're both fucking solid. And Snake Plissken, Jesus
Snake
Christ.
Plissken. Yeah, he's
got the market cornered.
Wow, like those three. He might have the top 5. Captain Ron.
Santa Claus, as Sean will never fail to remind us of.
That's true.
we do have to watch that with Sean at some point.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So it's a bunch of guys just dicking around, and suddenly they hear this helicopter whipping over the fucking base and a bunch of gunshots and grenades.
Yeah.
So they're like, what the shit? A bunch of them run outside and they're like, what the fuck's happening? The helicopter says Norge on the side, meaning it's Norwegian. It sets down near the edge of the base. The dogs just run the fuck away. It's a very cute dog. It's like a wolf, Malamute, husky type thing.
Yeah, it's also probably worth pointing out that the helicopter is being flown by Star Wars stormtroopers.
Yes, two guys get out of the helicopter. One of them had been with the rifle shooting at the dog and missing. And then the pilot gets out after him, and the first guy is like chasing it, running after the dog and still trying to shoot at it. And then the pilot gets out, and he crit fails his missile mastery to throw the grenade, and pulls the pin. It lands like 5 feet behind him, and he's like, well, I guess I'd better dig this out of the snow.
Yeah.
Right by my helicopter, and then it and like the grenade and him and the helicopter all blow up.
Let's be clear, though. Of all the deaths in this movie, that's the one I'd choose.
And be a quick one. Yeah, gotta go with that. The dog is running up towards all these Americans who are like, what the fuck are these guys circling and fucking shooting at a dog on top of our base? And then this guy who we know is Norwegian runs up and yells the plot of the movie at them, and then tries to shoot the dog, accidentally hits one of the American characters, and then he's like, everybody fucking dives for cover. He's chasing the dog, and then he gets shot by a guy in the American base.
Yep. Go ahead.
Did you know the guy was shouting the plot of the movie?
No, because I don't speak Norwegish.
Which, that bit I came up with last night, way too late, would have been fucking beautiful.
They don't know what that is, so
I'm going to explain. Last night, before we recorded, I thought what would be a hilarious bit for this podcast is to start the show by, first sending the unedited episode to our friend McYawnface, a Norwegian from the Astronomica Discord, who we both met at Astronomicon this year, and then ask him to provide a yelled Norwegian short summary of the episode to us so we could insert it at the beginning of the episode, possibly with some gunshots and dog barking sounds behind him.
The dog doesn't actually bark in the movie, does he?
A little bit,
I guess.
think. Yeah.
To make it to an audio medium, you kind of have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. That was my idea of a deeply funny bit that, like, I don't know, I'd say 5 people would appreciate.
Yeah.
But it, it'd be one of those that, like, those 5 people would really get a kick out of it. But unfortunately, we run way too close to publication in our recordings to make that work. Anyway, shout out McYawnface. So, they shoot the fucking Norwegian dude. He's dead. Everybody's like, holy shit, are we at war with Norway? What the fuck?
The answer, yes.
The
and
answer
always
is
have been.
Always yes. And yeah, the Norwegian dude just laid out the driving incident of the movie, which that's not a dog. It's something else pretending to be a dog. Don't let it get close.
This isn't a dog.
This isn't a dog.
That was just for you. I don't know if anybody else remembers that reference.
Probably not. So, where everybody's like, what the shit was that? We just killed a Norwegian guy who was shooting at us and a dog.
Hope he wasn't saying anything important.
Yeah, unfortunately, nobody speaks Norge. And it's at this point that we find out that one of our major characters, Dr. Copper, has a nose ring.
Yeah, it's very weird.
It is very weird, very interesting. I did a little research on it, and the only information about it is John Carpenter responded to a tweet a couple of years ago that somebody asked him, what was the deal with that? And he said, the actor, Richard Dysart, said, hey, I think I want to have a nose ring. So I said, great.
I mean, there are a bunch of crusty
It's
science freaks. Why not?
Yeah, and if you've ever seen, there was a Werner Herzog film. Shit, what was it called? Adventures at the End of the World or something like that. It's all about Antarctic researchers. And this guy would absolutely appear in that documentary. Like it would be, it'd just be a talking head where he'd say, like, sure, I'm a doctor here, but, when I was 12, I ran off and joined the circus, and then I was in the Marines for 5 years. And, then I went and got paramedic training, and now I'm here. And just stares at the camera. Because Antarctic research guys are interesting dudes.
Yeah, gotta be to do that with your life.
And we also find out that communications with the outside world has been down for 2 weeks, and it's only the first week of winter. So they're in for kind of the long haul where it's real tough to get shit in and out. And it's through this sequence where we're just talking to guys in the American base that the real magic trick of this movie starts kicking in, which is literally everybody in the film, with the exception of Kurt Russell and Keith David, are just guys that...
Oh, Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley was hardly a guy.
Really?
Yeah.
He became a guy. He became the face of diabetes.
He became a guy shortly after the end of this movie.
Did you say this was Keith David's first movie when we were watching it?
Yeah.
So he wasn't a guy yet.
Yeah, that's why I said everybody except Kurt Russell and Keith David.
Okay.
Everybody else is just a guy. It's just a bunch of, dudes that in 1982, you had seen all of them in 15 fucking guest spots on TV shows, or third angry crowd member in movies and stuff like that. So the real trick of this movie is that you've got just sort of an undifferentiated mass of guys who aren't, you recognize each of them as being different types.
Yeah, I was gonna say Donald Moffat had been around, but
a little bit, yeah. But
Logan's Run and Popeye, but not nothing major.
Yeah, he's just a guy that you see in movies, and they're all just fucking character actor. I don't want to say nobodies because that's not what they are, but they're the kind of character that they're, everybody in this movie was fifth billed in an ensemble.
Kind of like when I think about it, like a movie like Reservoir Dogs, or Tarantino did that a lot too, just like a ensemble of character actors.
You're like, oh shit, Lawrence Tierney's still alive? Boy.
The dog guy, the kennel master, Richard
Mazer,
he's one of those guys.
Yeah, and he went on to become a somewhat bigger guy, and that's really the trick of this movie. They're all visually distinct.
Yeah, that's important because there's a lot of them, and they've all got to die.
There are 12 guys, and 10 of them got to go out before the final frame.
Yeah.
And they're visually distinct. They're all, you can kind of pick up, you kind of get their vibe just from how they look and how they dress, but nobody in the movie gets any kind of fucking backstory.
Yeah. You're right. It's important that the actors are good because they've got to be distinct, and there's a lot of them. Most of them are white guys, not all of them, but most of them are white guys, and they got to be distinct from each other. And yeah.
And they apparently there was a scene that was shot but not filmed that I think it was supposed to be Kurt Russell and I don't think it wasn't Childs. It was Kurt Russell and somebody else, and he monologues about how basically it amounts to, I've got real bad PTSD, and that's why I don't sleep, and that's why I'm down here driving helicopters as opposed to in the real world, and that's why I drink all the time. Which that scene would have brought it down immediately.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't get any fucking backstory of these characters. they've been here for 8 weeks, I think.
They don't know. They don't know each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and anything important came out in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
I think it's important to say, since we didn't do a little preamble, that not only do we like this movie, I think this movie might be perfect, like a perfect horror movie.
It's I have that in my notes. It's one of those movies where, are there flaws? Like,
yeah,
because I'm always looking for flaws.
Like, you can say, we can argue about the UFO at the beginning, which, you remember, there's a UFO at the beginning.
What?
I think Josh made a good enough point that at the time it was definitely warranted. I don't know that there's any mistake made.
Yeah. I think virtually everything about this movie is fucking perfect. And
I feel like we said the exact same thing about Escape from New York.
I mean, and honestly, John Carpenter be good at making movies, yo.
At least in the beginning. I don't know what happened, like, because Escape from LA had some flaws.
Yeah, Escape from LA had some flaws. Yeah. I don't know. He had a real hot, like, 10-year run, something like that.
Yeah.
Like Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween. The Fog. The Fog has some good points, but it's not great. Then Escape from New York. This. What was after this? Starman? Yeah. Anyway, he had a fucking like 10-year run that was hot shit.
Yeah, and 2 of them might be, maybe 3 of them might be absolutely perfect movies.
Yeah, and honestly, for as silly as it sounds, Big Trouble in Little China might also be kind of a perfect movie.
Yeah, that's why I added maybe 3. It might be.
Oh, I assumed you were counting Halloween in that.
Oh, I've actually never seen Halloween.
Wow.
I know.
All right. Okay, sure.
I just never did. I know, it's weird.
Yeah. All right.
There's a few of those I like to keep out there.
Yeah, just floating.
Yeah, just like classic movies I've never seen. So one day I can open that, like when you love something so much and then you hear somebody say, I've never seen that. And you're like, oh man, you're so fucking lucky.
Yeah. It's like I'm not a big slasher horror movie guy. It's a real good one. Like, yeah. Okay. Back to the movie proper.
Yeah, we got a long ways to go.
Yeah, we do. So we meet all the guys. They've all got kind of their thing. And we'll get more into them later. They discuss going to the Norwegian base to check things out. So Dr. Copper and McCready's job is helicopter pilot.
Should we not just go through them really quick since they're lined up on IMDb and say,
oh, sure,
in one line what their thing is?
Okay.
McCready, helicopter pilot. Blair, played by Wilford Brimley.
Biologist?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Childs, played by Keith David.
Angry
and badass.
Yeah.
Clark, played by Richard Mazer. He handles the dogs.
He's the dog guy and big. He's, I think, the main thing.
This is more than one sentence.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I didn't remember. I was constrained by that.
Speed run.
Okay, go
Knowles,
ahead.
played by T.K. Carter. Roller skates.
Cook.
I like roller skating better.
Superstitious.
Palmer, played by David Clinnan. Is he the
Palmer
Windows?
is the no, he's the conspiracy theorist guy who smokes
always smoking weed. He's the pothead.
Yeah.
Dr. Copper, Richard Dysart, nose ring. Yep. He's a doctor. Norris, played by Charles Hallahan. I don't really know what he does. He dies pretty early.
No. Norris dies 2/3 of the way through the movie. Right?
Oh, right. Yeah. He has the stomach that opens up.
Yeah. He's a redheaded guy. He's he goes out. He's a geophysicist and a glaciologist.
Okay.
Is his role. He goes out to the UFO later.
Right. Bennings, played by Peter Maloney. Don't really remember.
Yeah, Bennings does die pretty early.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one with the acid.
Okay.
Or wait, no, is that Fuchs? shit.
remember.
I can't
This was a
remember.
mistake. We never should have done this.
Keep going. Keep
Gary,
going.
played by Donald Moffat,
He's the commander guy.
kind of the boss. Yeah.
You dare to come into my office and bark at me like some junkyard dog?
Windows, played by Thomas Waits.
He has
communications.
Sunglasses.
He wears
and
sunglasses.
is cool.
He wears his sunglasses. Fuchs, played by Joel Polis.
He is the. Oh wait, no. I'm sorry. Bennings is the red beard, bald on top, red hair guy.
Yes. He does not look like that in his IMDb picture, but yes, I can picture him now.
And Bennings is, I don't know what his job is. He's the one with the acid that he's going to throw. He's like smart.
Okay, I think we nailed it. And the rest are Norwegians, and Adrian Barbeau is the computer.
Yeah. Okay, there's the movie. We're done, right? So McCready and the doctor go to the Norwegian base. And we get a shot of the dog just like hanging out under a pool table. It's, cool one.
Yeah. Chilling, all coolin'. Shooting some b-ball outside of the school.
That's cool. And then it goes down a hallway with some tracking shots and is up to no good and walks into a room where a human silhouette is on the wall. And you're like, hey, that's a shadow of a person, except it's a totally unrecognizable person, which is important because that was actually the, I think, lighting supervisor, because the actor who is that part was too visually recognizable. So it took away the tension of who is it?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a smart move.
Yeah. But I won't mention that now. So the dog goes into a room with a dude and they're alone. And it sounds gross when I say it like that.
Yeah. He does not fuck the dog, if you're getting anything from Josh's tone of voice.
As far as we're aware.
True.
So
it could happen.
The chopper goes to the Norwegian base. There's a giant pillar of smoke. It is all fucked up. Like, it is blown to shit.
Yeah. They do a little run through.
Yeah. They go through this whole base. They find a suicided guy in a chair with a straight razor in one hand, his throat cut and his wrist slashed, and it's all frozen and crazy looking. The whole base is just smoking and fire and whatever. They grab a bunch of papers and a couple of videotapes and stuff. And then Kurt Russell finds a giant ice coffin.
Yep.
It's a big rectangular chunk of ice. And the doctor says, I don't know, it was the frozen remains of an animal that got caught in the ice and they chopped it out. Who knows? And then they find an extinguished funeral pyre with a bunch of dudes? ?
Mm-hmm.
Which becomes more clear in a couple of scenes on it, and a bunch of kerosene jugs. So they fly back to the base with...
Don't they also find a freakish body that they bring back with them?
That's the funeral pyre.
Okay.
Yeah, that's partially burned.
All right.
So they get back to the base, and the dog is watching out the window, and it's... I bring that up simply because the dog in this movie is so fucking well trained.
Yeah, it's a really good dog. All the dogs are, honestly.
Every shot of Jed, the main dog in the movie, is like perfect. This is like a Benji level motherfucker.
Yeah.
He's just... There's a couple of shots of him just looking out a window, like... And you're like, yeah, that dog is watching the helicopter land.
It's kind of sad because it makes you feel for the dog, but
yeah,
and it's not the dog; it's an alien,
mm-hmm.
but it's the thing rather. But yet it's also a dog, and we all love dogs.
Yeah, it's all a very well trained dog.
Yeah,
like it's seriously some like Lassie Benji level bullshit.
This movie is hard if you're a dog lover. I'll just say that.
Yeah, it really
which
is.
is why my wife didn't want to rewatch it with me. But for some reason, it doesn't affect me in the same way because I know the dog is actually the thing.
Yeah, I don't. The only thing that gets to me about it is
the scene in the kennel
when the dogs are yelping.
Yeah, it's bad.
And yeah. It's
we're dog and animal lovers on this
Yeah.
show. We don't ever want to see animals suffer, even fakely. But
yeah.
for some reason, this movie, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so the helicopter lands. They strap what they McCready and the doctor had strapped what they found on the funeral pyre to the skid of the helicopter, and it is not a regular dude.
No, it's a messed up thing.
It has a couple of too many faces and some extra parts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of unpleasant looking. So Blair is going to do an autopsy on it. Blair being Wilford Brimley, who I did a little research. Eric, how old are you?
46.
Yeah. So how old do you think Wilford Brimley is in this movie?
We talked about it when we were watching it.
I had not actually gathered the numbers at that moment.
I'm going to guess he's a lot younger than he looks, because I would say, judging by his look, 40, at least 40.
Oh, okay. He is 47.
Oh, really?
So, you're...
I'm his age.
I feel weird saying this, but you are looking a lot better than Wilford Brimley did at your age.
Well, I expected you almost to say like he was in his 30s, because he's always looked that age.
Also, there is some very interesting trivia about Wilford Brimley, which I'll just drop now. Apparently, he was, through the end of his life, a Mormon, member of the Church of Latter-day Saints. Mm-hmm. And he was, in his relative youth, the late 50s and into the 60s, one of Howard Hughes's bodyguards.
No shit.
Probably one of the dudes supplying clean Mormon blood for blood transfusions.
That was a Howard Hughes thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I did some research, and he acknowledged that, he worked for Howard Hughes, but there was never somebody like me interviewing him going, okay, give me every fucking ounce of that information.
Yeah.
Because I would have been like, yeah, you ride a horse in this movie, whatever.
Yeah, I'm just Googling, trying to find a picture of young Wilford Brimley, and it doesn't really exist on Google.
Yeah, he started acting in the mid-60s, I think, because he was friendly with Robert Duvall.
He's a fucking legend.
Yeah. I just that whole, he was one of Howard Hughes's, when, late in his life, Howard Hughes got all wrapped up in all sorts of wild shit.
Yeah, he had some eccentricities, shall we say, and a lot of money to make those eccentricities reality.
Yeah, and boy did he. So he is going to do the autopsy, and he does it, and it is gross and horrible. The insides of this body seems normal, which is a direct contrast to the outside. It's got a normal amount of guts, I guess.
Okay.
So
a normal amount.
He's like, this heart is normal. This, these intestines are fine. He's not going I don't know, this thing is chock full of organs.
Yeah.
But everybody's pretty disturbed because it looks all fucked up. And it is the first instance that we are going to see of, throughout the rest of this film, of deeply fucked up, gooey shit.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go into the overhead or overnight sequence where Palmer fires up a giant fucking blunt, like a baseball bat sized motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
The
blunt.
dog.
You trailed off on the word blunt, so I'm like, fired up a baseball bat. Then it's a big ass joint.
Yeah. Huge. Yeah. He's smoking a newspaper sized rollie. Yeah. And the dog startles Bennings, who's the redhead, going under going under the poker table. They're all playing cards, and then the dog ends up getting put in the kennel with the other dogs, and seems to initially like settle in okay, and then all the
Actually,
other dogs.
I would disagree with that. The dogs, he like this really well trained dog walks in very slowly and then like slowly lowers himself to his belly, and all the other dogs seem pretty unnerved by him.
Well, they're not visibly freaking out, at least in the first, like, until after Clark leaves the room.
Yeah, I guess it's more the main dog. I don't know. It's just such a good little dog actor. It's like inching
really
his
is.
way in and then slowly lowers himself down. I like this scene.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that dog is good at what he does, or she.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't look at its balls.
Its name is Jed, so I'm gonna assume that it's a male dog, but you know, we don't need to get into, you know, if anybody knows how the dog gendered itself, let us know, and Eric can go back and re-edit this whole podcast.
Sure, I would definitely do that.
Yeah. So after Clark leaves the room after kenneling it, all the other dogs start fucking freaking. And this is the part where I do not like it.
Yeah.
It turns into the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. Like, its face splits open like a fucking flower and shoots out fucking tentacles and spider legs and spraying goo all over the other dogs. And they are not having fun.
Maybe that's why it doesn't bother me as much, because all of the animal suffering is so clearly if practical effects. Like, you don't see anything that looks like a real animal being hurt, which I guess would be a flaw of the movie. But if it was too real, it would be a complete, you know.
I think for me, it is almost entirely the audio.
Yeah, the audio
part
is
of it,
the worst part. Absolutely.
Because I have unfortunately been in, you know, situations where dogs are in trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't like animal in trouble noises. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that's bad. And
you famously hosted that TV show, Dogs in Trouble. That
Yes.
Rydell was on.
Barry Rydell was one of our guests.
Sorry, that's
Charged into a burning building to save a Mexican Chihuahua.
I'd watch it.
Me too, honestly. Yeah, so there are like all these crazy tentacles and spider legs, and it's very weird looking. And Clark comes back in to check on the dog. Turns out the lights are now broken. He goes to open the fucking gate, and like to escape literally over his head.
Yeah.
They are panicked to get the shit out of there. And he sees what I wrote in my notes as the horror.
Yeah.
Which is a terrible pile of meat with.
I kind of wondered how, when I thought about doing this episode, how you were going to describe, how much time you were going to spend describing the various monsters.
Not much.
And how, if you would even be able to.
Like, I don't know what more I could say other than
the
meat.
horror pretty much sums it up in this meat pile.
It's like, I don't know, there's clearly some dog parts in there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it kind of has dog parts for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. So, and McCready, we cut to McCready in the mess hall getting some beer out of the fridge, and he hears the howling and the screeching, and yanks the fucking fire alarm and runs towards the dog kennel. Clark is freaking the fuck out. He managed to get the latch closed on the gate, and everybody arms the fuck up, including McCready sends, like, McCready is, I don't know, within half a second of him entering the room and seeing what is going on, he tells Bennings, tell Childs to get the flamethrower.
Yeah, he instantly. I mean, it's fair. He saw they were burning it at the Norwegian base, so his brain would probably go fireworks.
Yeah. So Childs brings the flamethrower, and they torch the motherfucking monster.
Yeah.
And it's horrible, and there's yelping.
Yeah.
Anyway, cut to the morning. Wilford Brimley is dissecting it. It is deeply gross. And he says, you see, what we're talking about here is an organism that imitates other life forms, and it imitates them perfectly. When this thing attacked our dogs, it tried to digest them, absorb them, and in the process, shape its own cells to imitate them. This, for instance, that's not dog. It's imitation. Pointing at one of the spider legs.
Yeah.
We got to it before it had time to finish. So
Wilford Brimley is so fucking good in this movie.
He
like,
really
I know
is.
we've talked about him a lot already, but there's something about that guy. And in the end, towards the end of his arc, he's just really good.
Yeah, he sells every fucking bit of this for a guy with I don't think he had much, if any, like formal acting training, because he got into movies doing stunt writing and shit.
It's just so weird because when, like I said, saw this for the first time not that long ago. I mean, I was definitely an adult, and Wilford Brimley he'd become a meme with the diabetes and the reverse mortgages and whatever he did in his old age. And to see him in this, I was A, surprised, but B, just man, the dude brought it.
I throughout my life have, I'm sure, seen Wilford Brimley in 30 fucking things, whether they be movies or episodes of TV shows or whatever. I don't think he ever gave a performance better than this one. And also kind of, I think his two best performances that I'm aware of are this and The Firm.
Oh, yeah.
Where he plays the head of security fucking psychopath villain to young Tom Cruise. And both of them are totally against type of, Wilford Brimley is just
lovable
a
grandpa.
down-home grandpa guy who wants to fuck aliens and be young. I don't remember how.
I don't remember how
works.
Cocoon goes, but that's probably. Let's just go with that.
Let's assume that. This movie though is a shockingly good fucking performance, given literally his entire career.
Yeah,
and it's incredible. And you can see in this scene, he's like eyeballing fucking everybody. He's already
he's the first to figure it out.
Yeah. And he asks, as people are leaving the room after he gives his little horrible autopsy, he's like, so, Clark, what was that dog doing all day? It's just kind of wandering around. You didn't put it in the kennel until after nightfall? Huh? Sure. All right. So we're like, what the fuck is going on here? All right, whatever. So they review a bunch of the videotapes they got from the Norwegian base, and they're digging something up from the ice. What is it? We don't know. It turns out they end up going there with Norris, who's the glaciologist, and the Norwegians dug up something huge from the ice a couple of miles north of their base. They go check it out, and it is a giant fuck-off flying saucer. The one from the beginning, remember 40 minutes ago? No, you don't. You forgot about the flying saucer. Yeah. Too much shit happened since then. And Norris is the guy who he goes through a little bit of a scientific explanation, but says, this thing's been buried for 100,000 years at least. And we're like, oh, well, okay, sure. That seems normal.
It's interesting. These dudes, we just made the discovery of all time, the all-time most significant discovery, but unfortunately, we've got bigger problems to worry about.
Unfortunately, this discovery is a monster that is trying to kill us.
Yeah.
So we get back. We go back to the.
So
basement.
do you think? I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's one of those questions that the question's more fun. Do you think the thing is the aliens that flew here, or do you think the thing got into whatever aliens were out there and then flew it here?
Wow, that had literally never occurred to me once in my fucking life.
Because I think the latter would be more fun. The alien ship was also a victim of this thing.
Fuck. Wow, you just stopped me in my fucking tracks. Well, I guess to answer your question, I think it is the thing. I don't think it's the second. I think the second is a very interesting concept. um,
You think
Boy.
the thing is that ship is what that was flown here specifically by the thing?
yeah. But boy, I really
It's kind of an
like what
Alien
you've done
versus
here.
Predator thing where like
Whoever wins, we lose.
yes.
Honestly, one of the best movie
Yeah.
catchphrases. What do you call that? Taglines
Tagline,
of all
yeah.
time. Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
That had literally never occurred to me once in my fucking life, and I have seen this movie a bunch for 35 years.
Well, it literally just occurred to me as we were talking. So
Fucking A. All right. This podcast is doing something. Okay. So they fly back to the base after they find this giant flying saucer and the hole with the giant ice coffins, whatever. Now, I think maybe one of the most interesting things about this movie, aside from the UFO at the beginning, remember that?
lies.
Is that we see these guys rappel down this crater that the Norwegians opened up to go down onto the surface of the UFO, which has an open hatch on the top of it. And then they're back at base.
Yeah. Interesting.
We don't see anything about the inside of the fucking UFO or them walking on the UFO.
Because it doesn't matter.
Well, it kind of doesn't, but at the same time, I don't know. Somebody could have got infected in there.
Very true. I mean, they don't like a lot of the people who get infected. They never show them, like proof. Like you're just which is part of the fun. Like if you knew, and that's what I feel like a lot of modern movies would do. They would like do that. He gets infected and then he hides it from everybody. And
it's the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it works in some situations, but it's kind of overplayed at this point.
Yeah.
And it's more fun to just, it could be anyway. It could be McCready. We don't know that it's not McCready until they do the test later on.
Yeah. And I think like this is something in my second watch, I was actually like, oh my God, they don't ever like, we literally see them go down to the UFO. And then the movie's like, so 2 hours later, they're back at the base.
There might be a cut scene. Who knows?
Possibly. Maybe it was intended to be filmed and they didn't have enough money.
Yeah.
The thing that I find amazing is that the movie remains perfect.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that, like, okay, obviously we're going to have a fucking Danny Glover walking into the Predator spaceship by the meatpacking plant in Predator 2.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, it's not
the thing.
Yeah. Fuck. That's not what this movie's about. This isn't a sci-fi movie about alien spaceships. This is a movie about who's the guy that's going to mutate and kill us all. So going down into the spaceship doesn't really add anything.
I absolutely agree.
Which shows so much restraint because it would be such a fun thing to film. It would look so good on trailers or whatever.
Yeah.
And they would absolutely, if they remade this motherfucking movie, which they have, and who knows, maybe they did go into a spaceship on the remake. They probably did.
I honestly don't remember. Like, I remember so little of the 2011 thing. I almost tried to rewatch it this morning before we started.
Glad you didn't.
Yeah,
because I don't want to. We'd end up talking about it more than it deserves.
Yeah. Okay. So on that note of what you said, so an interesting thing about this movie, and I don't want to save this to the end because we're going to end up getting overrun and crushed by time.
Yeah, well, we are at tight 90 right now.
Yeah. Okay, so tight 90. We're going to stick with this. So a really interesting thing about this movie is, okay, this is a remake of a movie called The Thing from Outer Space, which is a movie version of a novella by John Campbell called Who Goes There? And The Thing from Outer Space can be pretty clearly read, and so can this, as a metaphor for the Red Scare and communist infiltration of the Americas, and who's really on your side, who is pretending to be a good American.
Yeah.
And I think one of the really interesting things about this movie is, if this exact film, had they just stuck it on a shelf for 3 years, in the year fucking 2024 and the year 2000, we would all be going, oh yeah, this movie is clearly about HIV and AIDS. You don't know who has it. You don't know who the threat is coming for.
In the year 2000?
No, if it had come off the shelf in like 1987 or something.
Okay.
In the year 2000 and 2024, we would be assessing it as being a metaphor for AIDS.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think Red Scare makes a lot more sense.
I don't know. I think it almost translates better to an AIDS metaphor. But everybody's allowed to have their own viewpoint. I think this honestly is shockingly prescient in what we would describe as, remember, there's this invisible killer out there. It could be your husband. It could be Wilford Brimley. Are you married to Wilford Brimley? Maybe you should be.
If only.
Yeah. Diabetes. Anyway, so we talked about revolutionary martyrdom in the dystopia portion, meat, body horror, and AIDS. So we're back into the movie.
Yes.
I really think that is an interesting and potentially fruitful reading of the film. But anyway, so we find out at this point, we get back to the base, and Palmer is talking about the chariots of the gods, and Childs is going on, like, McCready has apparently just explained, like, I don't know, there's this fucking UFO, like, it's off screen. McCready explained there's a fucking UFO, and like there's this big chunk of ice that the doctor and I found. So they unthawed an alien? ?
There's, you gotta kind of love how downplayed the alien aspect is. At one point, maybe right around here, they mentioned that they can't just set the corpse on fire because it's somebody's eventual.
It's gonna. That's the next scene. Yeah,
yeah, that's somebody's Nobel Prize or whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna be a Nobel Prize for somebody.
Which is true, but other than that, like, I would just be sitting around like, holy shit, that's a UFO. That's a fucking flying saucer. They don't have time for that.
They do not. Childs keeps going on about how it is, quote, voodoo bullshit, which, honestly, fair. It's horrible, nightmarish shit that is out of this world. Voodoo bullshit. Yeah, exactly. Just the same as everybody in Mona Lisa Overdrive and Count Zero.
Yeah,
it is, quote, voodoo bullshit. And I mentioned on the commentary that Palmer mentions, they're all over the place, man. Chariots of the Gods. Which is a book by a guy named Eric von Daniken from the 1970s, and he is the Ancient Aliens researcher.
Actually familiar with it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, not familiar with it.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
They are he wrote a number of books. They were all fucking softcover, absolute nonsense. All archaeology and advanced technology was brought to us by aliens, especially the technologies that we in reality know were invented by brown people. And that's just a general rule for our audience. If you hear about ancient alien shit, assume that there is racism deep in the core of it.
Yeah.
because nobody other than white people could have possibly figured out how a pyramidal
How to
structure of
stack rocks in a
stones
triangle.
stays up better than, like, I don't know, a sphere of stone. I'm not sure what these people want, but they're truly hilarious books. If you go in knowing that it is absolute fucking nonsense. And one of the things he specifically mentions is that, they didn't, Palmer mentions, they didn't give the Incans and the Aztecs all of their technology, man. And that brings me to one of my absolute favorite pieces of Ancient Aliens lore, trivia, I don't know, whatever. There's this specific image from a Mayan temple, or a Mayan tomb. Okay, so we got this Mayan god kind of reclined, and there's all these Mayan glyphs around him and stuff. And it's like on the opposite page is a picture of, I think it was Neil Armstrong, one of the Apollo astronauts, in an Apollo module, reclined at the same angle, with a bunch of, like, kind of nonsensical looking shit around him. It's all the Apollo module technology.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a major piece of the proof to these people. Also, one of my favorite bits directly related to that is, in many Mexican restaurants, you will see a picture that is copied almost directly from I think it's the same tomb, except the Mayan king is eating a burrito or something, if I remember right. In the original version of it, he is piercing his penis with a stingray spine and inhaling the dream spirit essence from it. It's very fun.
I'm not going to lie. I've completely lost where we are in reality right now. Once you hit piercing penis with stingray spine, that was in Chariots of the Gods?
No, that's in the Mexican. That's from the same tomb that appears in Chariots of the Gods. Oh,
okay.
I'm going to do my level best to post pictures of this stuff on Wednesday, because otherwise it's not nearly as funny. Anyway, so Palmer is convinced that, aliens, they're real. And spoiler, he's right. And at this point, Null shows up and throws some fucking garbage on a pinball machine, a very nice vintage pinball machine.
Yeah.
And says, you got to stop throwing shit in the trash. And it's these torn up long johns. And this is not important at all. And, I don't know why they put it in the movie.
But then McCready takes them out of the trash and keeps them by his desk. The rest of the...
Yeah, because he is interested in these dirty fucking drawers. Mm-hmm. So we see Blair running a computer simulation, and it turns out that the thing is going to take over life on Earth.
This is the cyberpunk portion of the movie.
Yeah. Within 27,000 hours, which is, I think, a little over 3 years. Anyway, and there is a 73% chance one or more of the team is already infected. Yeah. He got on that Chat GPT shit early.
He did.
And
this is where they did a good job, because this is where he disappears for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of forget about him, even though he's the one that discovered and told us, what was happening, basically.
Yeah. And this is, again, going back to the real high level magic trick of the movie. It's a bunch of dudes. I mean, you can lose track of them. Like, even though Blair, Childs, McCready are, they're kind of the notable ones, you can still fucking lose track of them, because there's a lot of dudes.
Yeah.
So then Windows and Benning are moving the corpses to the supply room out of the lab. And Fuchs goes to talk to Mac in the Snowcat, and explains that I think Blair's having some trouble. He's locked himself in his room, and I found some of his notes, and they're seeming real fucking paranoid, man. And he says in these notes that there's still cellular activity and these were burned remains and like it's not dead yet.
Yeah.
And throughout this, we've seen like intercuts of them moving the corpses into the supply room, and Windows takes off to go run an errand, and then comes back and finds Blair being fucking eaten. Or Bennings being fucking eaten. He is like wrapped in some fucking tentacles and shit, and it's not good. So then he freaks out and like races away and is like, holy shit. And then we get to the first use.
Windows is kind of the stereotypical guy that's freaking out all the time.
He's freaking out, man.
Freaking out, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to have one of those in your movie.
Yeah, it really is. Sells the freaking out to the audience.
Yeah.
So then Bennings runs out into the snow. And we get the first use of a flare. And the whole rest of this movie is just full of flares, and it's great.
Yeah, we love them.
Yeah, you can't do better than a goddamn
merch idea. High-tech, low-life road flares.
Honestly, if we could get those branded, that would be fucking great.
That would be sick. I mean, they're good safety. They're good for, a dystopian post-apocalyptic, keep them in your car. You always could use some road flares.
Yeah, I honestly recommend it.
With our logo.
Yeah, no shit. So everybody gangs up and chases Bennings out into the snow, and he is now mutant.
Yeah.
He's got like these weird looking fucking hands that are growing like spider legs out of him, and he's doing this very odd fucking screaming. And it's a really effective sound effect. I think it only happens one more time in the movie, but it's not the high pitched screeching you might expect. Like
I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah,
I believe you.
And they kick a fuel tank over and then torch him.
Yeah.
And it is like the interesting thing about this is that it is not at all an action scene.
No, it's a surprise. Yeah.
It's like they chase him out in the snow and then he's like kneeled down in the fucking snow mutating, and it's a bunch of dudes standing around. One of them kicks open a fucking fuel tank and then they throw a torch in it. And it's a weirdly meditative scene to burn a character alive.
Yeah. It's not a fun scene.
Yeah, and it would be an easy place to drop like, oh sure, we'll have a fucking chase through the snow and they're fucking shooting at him and fire flamethrowers, whatever. But it's
but John Carpenter's never. We talked about it in Escape from New York. There was no action in that movie that seems like that's all it would be.
Yeah, it's really impressive, the restraint involved.
Yeah.
So then they pile, like after that happens, they pile up the other corpses and fucking flamethrower the shit out of them. And you're like,
fuck the Nobel Prize.
Yeah. You're like, wow, that's fucked up. I guess the movie's over. And then somebody says, hey, anybody seen Blair? Because at this point, it's been like 10 minutes since we've seen Blair. And the last thing actually probably 20, 30 minutes since we've seen Blair. The last thing we heard was he's locked in his room. He's all paranoid.
After just discovering that the world is going to basically end in 27,000 hours.
Yeah. So then everybody's like, oh shit, let's go find him. And McCready sees him climbing out of the chopper, or somebody climbing out of the chopper, and then going back into the building. He, runs the chopper, his baby, finds that it's all fucked up and disabled. And then we hear some gunshots, and it turns out that Blair is in full fucking meltdown mode. He's in the communications and computer room, and he is hacking at the radios and the computers with an axe and scaring the shit out of Windows.
Poor Windows.
Yeah. He's not having a great time. And he is in a clearly manic, paranoid fucking meltdown. Shoots Childs, and like it's a great thing that we discussed on the commentary. He shoots like 5 shots at Childs until the gun is out, and then throws the fucking revolver.
Yeah, classic move.
Which is the ideal last stand, right?
Yeah. You know when you're throwing the gun, you're done.
Yeah, it over. So then he ends up getting captured. McCready knocks him out. They stick him in a tool shed and, Hammer, lock him up out in this tool shed a ways. And he tells, I think it's Fuchs, to like watch Clark, keep an eye on him. So we're queued up to watch Clark for the rest of the movie. Maybe he's the alien.
Which is great misdirection because, spoiler alert, you've all seen the movie. Clark ends up being clean, and this guy ends up being the guy that's been the bad guy all the time, even though he was the one that discovered. So who knows when he got infected.
Yeah.
But it's the one you least expect because you just saw him discover.
Yeah, he's the one who figured it out. So then the next scene sets up the entire fucking rest of the movie. It's everybody except for Blair, basically saying, like, it's a dialogue scene that's all about, okay, so I guess what now? We don't have a radio, so we got to wait for rescue. McCready says, no. One or more of you motherfuckers might be the thing. And if we're waiting like 2 months before anybody shows up, then the thing is going to get the rest of us.
Yeah.
And, we're fucked. We gotta figure out a way to check if people are the thing and remain fucking paranoid. So, Child suggests that and this is also like this sets up the very end of the movie. Child says, well, if they're the perfect imitation, how would any of us fucking know? And also, maybe the person who is the thing wouldn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
We go through a whole thing about the doctor suggests maybe we do blood tests, checking people's current blood draws against their old ones, seeing if there's a reaction, because we got to the supply. It turns out the blood is sabotaged.
Only a couple people had access to it.
Only a couple of people could have possibly fucking done it, include the doctor and the commander, Gary. And then
at this point, it really is a game of werewolf or mafia or whatever version you want, a secret Hitler. Everybody is paranoid. Everybody is suspect. You're trying to narrow down clues, but then the movie's throwing misdirection at you too. So
yeah, it's this next sequence before the action starts is truly like a classic of paranoid cinema.
Yeah.
Who is it? Lots of close-ups of eyes. So we end up with the doctor, Gary, and Clark all tied up. Clark, because Blair said, watch Clark.
Yeah.
And then there's something that I didn't notice until my second time through the movie this week, that at one point, McCready says, okay, there's going to be a storm rolling in 6 hours, so we got to be ready for this and figure it out. And then, like, in very short order, it cuts to basically somebody says, we've been in the storm 48 hours. So it's been like 54 hours since they locked Blair up. And these motherfuckers are still tied to a couch.
Yeah.
And McCready's like wandering around. He records this tape just in case. It's I think we're all, I think the end of it is the important part. Nobody trusts anybody now. And we're all very tired.
I feel like that would have been a good opening the podcast bit.
It could have, but I couldn't. There's no way to work both of us into it.
That's fine.
I did have half an idea that would involve us and all of our former guests, but it was going to be way too difficult.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's walking around and runs into Fuchs in his office with his. He's got this big beaker of fucking acid that he's primed to throw at anybody who comes in. And then shortly after that, the power goes out, and we're still watching Fuchs, and somebody's going down the hall, and Fuchs is like, "Hey, who are you?" And then disappears. Suddenly, Fuchs has been gone an hour, and we send out some search parties. They go out, they find Fuchs's corpse in the snow, burned, and we get some more great fucking flare action. Also, when Fuchs was wandering out in the snow, he found McCready's jacket.
Yeah. So, like, you know that our leading man is not immune from being suspect here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they search. They find Fuchs's body all burnt to a crisp. Everybody says, "Well, why is it burned?" Either maybe he was trying to burn the thing, or maybe he decided to incinerate himself before the thing could take him over. And they're like, "Oh shit, you know we haven't thought of in like 48 hours, Blair. Let's go check on Blair." So they go up to the tool shed. Blair's got a noose,
It's
like
a great
you do.
scene. I love this scene so much when we were watching.
And his fucking Brimley's delivery in this scene is so fucking great. It is a guy who has gone, like, he is trying to be sane and personable.
Yeah.
and failing in very minor aspects.
Just let me out of the shed, McCready.
Yeah, he's like,
I want to be out of the shed.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with me, and if there was, I'm better now.
Yeah.
I'd like to come back inside.
It's so good. I really, Wilford Brimley, I said it enough, but he's just so good in this part.
Yeah, he's incredible. And so they're all going back into the main base, leaving Wilford Brimley there, and then McCready gets distracted by, the lights in his shed are on. Because he has his own separate like radio shed where he monitors weather or something, and
Jim Beam
drinks mostly, and says to Knowles like, "I gotta go check that out because I left the lights off when I was there yesterday." So we go head in there.
He takes Windows with him. He takes one of them with him.
Takes Knowles.
Knowles, okay.
Yeah. And then we cut to, he's been gone for 45 minutes. Knowles is beating on the door to get into the main base. And
the storm is fully here.
Yeah, the storm is like whiteout conditions. Knowles cut McCready loose from the safety line after having found McCready's jacket in the furnace to be burned, I guess.
Yeah.
And then we get this beautiful fucking paranoid sequence of they're all trying to lock down the base, and the doorknob's turning as McCready's trying to get back in, and then they hear a window break, and it's the supply room, and they enter the supply room, and McCready's there with a fucking bundle of dynamite and a road flare. And also, this is the point at which I think it's Fuchs says, "Supply window." Or no, it's Palmer that says that. And Norris has a heart attack, or heart issue. So they're like, "Oh shit, well, I guess McCready's taking us hostage. He says he's going to blow us all up if we don't let him back in. Great. Norris is dying. We got to take care of this." So they all go to the medical lab, and they're trying to get Norris back to life, and Dr. Copper is applying fucking, the defibrillator to him, and then Norris's chest opens up and eats the doctor's arms.
And this is so great because it's kind of happening in the background as we're kind of focused on McCready and his dynamite and his flare and holding everything hostage, and then it's like cutting back to the doctor, and then all of a sudden,
at this point, you have borderline forgotten, like, remember all that insane, gross alien shit from earlier?
Yeah, now it's a game of Clue. Now it's human versus human, and then all of a sudden the chest opens up and the doctor loses his fucking arms.
Yeah, it's fucking incredible.
It's one of the best jump scares, like, because this isn't a movie that is big on jump scares at all, but this one is the kind of jump scare that you want.
Yeah. That's one of the things I hate most about jump scares is that usually in a movie, if they're going to do a jump scare, you can
spot them. They're so easy to spot.
Like 5 or 10 seconds beforehand. Okay, so they're going down that hallway. It's dark. They're going to
the music cut out. Why would the music cut out?
Oh, there we go. Okay, great.
This one's just frantic, going back and forth, and then all of a sudden,
you're dealing with a guy having a heart attack, and suddenly his chest eats the doctor.
It's so good.
It's fucking wild, and then everything descends into absolute chaos.
Yeah.
Like, it is some of the best chaos. Everybody is screaming and running around, and fucking flamethrowers aren't firing like they should.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's it's fucking incredible. Then at the same time as you're seeing these, all these fucking dudes just freaking out because the chest just ate the doctor.
Yeah.
Like the head of Norris falls off the table, grows some tentacles, and like starts sneaking out of the room behind them. It is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful action sequences in movies.
One of the most insane scenes in movies.
Mm-hmm. It's got fucking ice dogs and spider legs and
flamethrowers and
it's fucking beautiful. And during all this, Norris becomes a horrible mutant pile. Like he's fucking growing up to the ceiling and all sorts. It's crazy bullshit. So MacReady, having killed both the Norris monster and the Norris head.
Wait, this isn't the part where the flamethrower malfunctions.
No, it is.
No, that's after the blood test, I thought.
Oh, was it? Is that?
He torches the body, and then you think the head's going to get away, and then they
oh, yes, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
They get the
that's
head.
In like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's the next big scene.
So basically, since MacReady had the flamethrower, he kills everybody. He's now in charge.
Plus he realized when the head escaped, it gave MacReady an idea. Well, these things, even a small part of them, are going to seek to survive. Like that thing was not attacking; it was sneaking out to start over again, and that's what gives MacReady a plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's in charge because he's the guy with the flamethrower
and the dynamite. Yeah. These are important things for establishing hierarchy.
Yeah, very.
I mean,
in this situation,
if you ask me, what supplies am I taking to Astronomicon next year? Flamethrower and dynamite.
I'd recommend against it. They're kind of anti-hierarchy over there.
Yeah, good point. So MacReady tells Windows and Palmer's to tie everybody up. He's got a fucking great idea. He heats up a piece of wire to apply to blood samples that he's going to take from everybody. And like Eric said, his theory is that every part of the thing is a separate thing. So it's going to try to survive no matter what. So if you try to, like, if you take a blood sample from somebody, like a normal person, it's just tissue. It's going to fucking, burn and sizzle and smell gross. But if you take it from a thing, you have suddenly created two things. If you, apply heat to this blood sample, it's going to try to fucking get away.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what we're going to do. So we decide to, go to everybody. And we have... Also, at this point, Clark lunges at MacReady with a fucking scalpel. Out of, like, he had grabbed the scalpel, and it was like, it's a very tension-building scene. And MacReady blows him the fuck away.
Yeah, he just fucking straight up shoots him.
Yeah, gives him a goddamn bindi. Yeah. I mean, it's maybe the most hardcore thing in the movie.
It's pretty fucking hardcore. I don't think a movie today would do. It's kind of like a Han shooting first thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very much what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't an alien. They tested him.
Yeah, because McCready is paranoid, and in this instance, rightly fucking so.
He's also PTSD, so he's gonna react.
Yeah. So we start doing the blood tests. First, Windows. Windows is safe.
Hey, real quick, one of the goofs on IMDb, and one of maybe the few continuity flaws of the movie is, although the Fuchs has told them that the alien organism is highly infectious, they used the wrong word. They don't care about sharing the same knife to get blood samples, which probably I would not have wanted to do.
Yeah, fair.
Very minor quibble, but I thought it was interesting.
So we test Windows blood, it's fine. We test McCready, it's fine. Throughout this whole sequence, we get some serious fucking Sergio Leone vibes.
Yeah, it's also worth pointing out, this is my favorite sequence in the movie. It maybe is like
it's a favorite sequence in movies.
Everybody loves this sequence. And it's so tense. It's so scary.
It just fucking close-ups of eyes. The audience has no idea.
McCready could very well.
The audience is tensed like when McCready goes to test his own sample.
Yeah.
Like
he is not immune because he's the hero. I mean, they have done some good work building him up as like with the jacket and, just the way he was acting coming back into the base.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great stuff.
Yeah, it's fucking incredible. It's shot like fucking Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Just eye close-ups. Everybody's watching what the fuck everybody else is doing and McCready's doing, and it's fucking beautiful. So,
and the first two are fine.
The first two are fine. Then we check Windows, we check McCready, we check. And the Dr. Copper died with his nose ring, R.I.P.
Yeah. I also like the line, now I'm going to show you what I already fucking know, or whatever McCready says before he tests his own blood. And you could tell that even he wasn't sure.
Even he is not 100%.
He exhaled a little when it didn't react.
He wouldn't have gone that hard for it if he had actually known.
Yeah.
And then he checks both the doctor and Clark's blood. And this is the point at which Knowles says, "You murdered him." And yes, that is factually accurate, but it's going to be overtaken by events almost immediately. So we're going to go through the rest of the guys. And I mean, obviously nothing's going to happen. So he checks Palmer's blood, and suddenly there's a fucking monster explodes out of his hand.
Yeah.
And
he's tied to a couch.
Yeah.
With two other guys.
He's tied to a couch with two other guys. Windows is shocked into doing absolutely fucking nothing. McCready's flamethrower is fucking broken. He's trying to get it to ignite. Fucking Windows' face gets eaten. McCready finally sets him on fire. Palmer busts through the goddamn wall. McCready fucking throws dynamite on him. And then torches Windows' corpse.
Yeah, because Windows was like alive, but clearly starting to change. So
yeah. So anyway, back to the checks.
Poor Windows.
Knowles is clean, and Childs is clean, and Commander Gary is also totally clean.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's this 3 minutes of like psychotic, insane. Holy fuck, what happened? And then we're back to, okay, that amped up the tension, but we still got to do these tests one by one.
Yeah. Also, at this point, Commander Gary issues the line, I know you gentlemen have been through a lot. When you find the time, I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch.
Yes.
He's been tied to the couch for like an hour of movie time at this point.
Yeah. It's a good time. So now they're going to go and test Blair.
Oh, yeah, Blair. We forgot about him again.
Yeah, we forgot about that guy. Man, having a cast made up almost entirely of just white guys is kind of useful.
Except for two.
Yeah. So they're going to go test they're going to go test Blair. Childs is going to stay at the base. And if anybody gets in, if anybody comes to the door that isn't them,
These people who've been tested.
like, yeah, fucking don't let them in, whatever happens. So they go up to Blair's cabin. Blair is not there, and the door is wide open. And then they find a tunnel under the cabin where Blair has been building a fucking UFO.
Yeah.
And apparently he has been able to get in and out of this tool shed at will due to, of course, the shape-changing abilities of the thing.
Yes, and he's also... Was this place already here, or did he dig it? I mean, I would assume he could, like, just make shovel hands and just go nuts.
Yeah, I think he dug it.
Yeah.
Because it was, like, hidden under the floor.
It's like your dream, right? Being able to just make shovel hands.
Be convenient, honestly. if I could make quality shovel hands.
Yeah.
God, what did I watch recently? Like, they were working with just garbage shovels.
We'll save that for another time.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we're like 2 hours 15 into this. Who knows? So we find this mini UFO, and then we get a nice, silent, peaceful tracking shot through the base, the main base, and we find, oh, there's nobody in these hallways, and oh, hey, there's that door they left Childs at, and it's open, and Childs isn't there. Huh, weird. And it's just quiet and peaceful. And then we cut to Knowles at the door of the tool shed, seeing what appears to be Childs leaving the base, just like heading off somewhere. And then the power cuts out. All the lights go out and the whole motherfucker. So they have a little confab. McCready thinks that the thing wants to freeze now. Okay, there's no way. He thinks there's no way that the thing thinks there's a way out consciously and moving.
Yeah.
So the thing is going to pretend to be one or more of them and freeze itself and wait for when, the spring resupply rescue shows up. And that'll take their bodies back to,
Start the whole thing will happen again for the third time.
Yeah. So at this point, everybody in the team, which the team has now come down to Gary, Knowles, and McCready. Basically, we've determined there is no way out if any of us survive.
Yeah.
So they blow up the tool shed and the UFO. So that way, at least the thing can't fly away.
Yeah. And they decide now they've got to torch the whole place, right?
Yeah. So they have what must have been an incredibly fun sequence of just like trashing the fucking base.
It's trashing our rights.
Trashing our rights, man. Trashing. So, yeah, they just run around with fucking axes and throwing fucking dynamite and Molotov cocktails everywhere. It's great. They've got bandoliers of dynamite. It's
fun if it wasn't in Antarctica and means you're going to freeze to death after it's all gone, but fun for the moment.
Yeah. And they head down there. Like the last place they got to go is this generator room, which is under the base. They plant dynamite all over. They're all kind of each alone. It's like a big kind of semi-room, semi-just basement setup.
Cave, yeah.
Yeah. So Blair pops up out of nowhere and sticks his hand into Gary's face.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's a weird and unpleasant effect. Knowles wanders the fuck off because he thinks he sees something. And as soon as Mac realizes that he doesn't see either Knowles or Gary anymore, he goes ahead and primes the old-fashioned fucking plunger dynamite detonator.
Looney Tunes style, baby.
Yeah, seriously. And then lights a single stick of dynamite that he's holding in his hand because at this point, McCready has really just decided, I am dying today.
Yeah, and probably from dynamite. That's probably the way I'd want to go too.
Yeah. Then suddenly we're in this fucking basement with McCready and there's like kind of wooden planks laid over the floor and suddenly land shark motherfucker. The thing like is tearing up. Like I can't think of anything other than land shark to explain. Like all these boards are exploding as this
or tremors, maybe.
Yeah, tremors. like this tentacular motherfucker like races towards him, suddenly eats the fucking detonator. Like
That's a problem.
yeah, there goes that. It turns into a giant pillar of meat and faces, and it's horrible. And then McCready throws some dynamite, and you cut to a big wide shot, and the base becomes a mushroom cloud, basically.
Yeah.
And McCready, we switch to this kind of medium shot from like an outlying sector of the base that's already been fucked up. Maybe it's the tool shed, honestly.
Yeah, it could be.
And like there's a figure slumping towards it, like wrapped in a fucking blanket, and we're like, oh shit, there's McCready. God damn. He is all fucked up and kind of leans against the wall and sits down to have a drink because he's obviously got a fucking bottle of scotch.
Mhm.
Or is it? Is it?
I don't know. Is it?
Yeah. And then Childs appears from screen left. And McCready says, like, where the fuck did you go? And Childs is like, I went after, I thought I saw Blair. I went after him and then got lost in the storm. And neither of them knows who's what.
Yeah.
I guess. And basically it ends on, why don't we wait here for a little while, see what happens.
Yeah, they basically say it's about to get real cold. It's pretty nice
Yeah.
for the moment while the
Yeah.
base is burning.
Yeah. And then Childs has a drink, and we sit down, and then it fades to black, and that's the end of the fucking movie.
Yeah.
So, fun thing. Here comes the part where I talk about solving a movie.
Yeah.
Who do you think is a thing, if there is a thing, surviving at the end of the movie, and why?
Well, without belaboring it too much, let me give you two answers. The answer that in my heart I want to be true, and that's that they're both survivors, and they're going to die, but they manage to at least take out the thing. But in reality, judging how the end goes down, I think McCready is still human.
Still, yeah.
And I think Childs probably, because otherwise, why would he leave his post? And he's been left alone the longest. It just makes sense that Childs is, but who fucking knows?
I don't know. We've seen McCready has been left alone a lot.
That's true too.
There are a couple of, like, this has been something that irritating fucking dorks have struggled with for 40 years now. And there are a couple of different explanations. John Carpenter has endorsed multiple opposing ones.
Which is
who cares?
always what you do.
Yeah, it's the same with fucking Ridley Scott. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
One is that one common fan theory is that earlier we saw McCready chucking Molotov cocktails, and we don't see him at the end drinking from his Jim Beam bottle. He offers it to Childs, and Childs drinks it. But if Childs is the thing, he wouldn't know if it's gasoline or not.
Yeah.
Eh?
That's true. Yeah.
Contra that, the 2011 Thing film made it very evident that non-organic parts of the organism do not get copied. Like, there's a scene in that where somebody finds a bunch of fillings on gold fillings on a shower floor.
Okay.
Because the thing had absorbed somebody and then copied them. So Child still has his earring in the last scene.
Okay.
So
I hate this conversation.
I know. I do too. The only reason I like it is because I don't know. I find a sick fascination with these fucking irritating dorks.
It's fun to bring it up. I mean, that's
Yeah.
our podcast. That's our whole point, is to belabor minutia.
Finally, somebody once upon a time decided, looking at the very end, like the last couple of shots, the two shots, you see Kurt Russell's breath steaming in the cold air. But the last little bit, you don't see Keith David's breath steaming.
Okay.
Now, so obviously Keith David would be the thing, except for like literally when Keith David is enters the little busted up cabin area, you can see his breath steaming. So that guy can go get fucked.
Maybe they're both. They're both clean.
I like to think they're both clean. Theoretically, it was mentioned in 2023. There's a direct sequel in the works, and somebody gave John Carpenter a check. So he was like, all right, sure, whatever.
He'll do anything for a check. We love that.
I mean, honestly, he's just living his best life, fucking smoking blunts and playing video games. Good for him.
Yeah.
He did more than we could reasonably expect a human could do.
Yeah. He's made all our lives better.
So anyway, that's The Thing.
Also, top trivia, this is his favorite of his movies he's made.
I think that's fair. It is, like we said,
kind of perfect.
Kind of a perfect movie. You want to hear about how this movie did?
Yes, as long as we can do it quickly.
We can do it quick. Okay, this movie costs $15 million.
A bargain.
Yeah, Rob Bottin, the guy who did nearly all of the special effects, got paid $1.5 million, and I think they got a very good value for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It made $20 million in its box office run, so less than hype.
As we discussed on the watch along, though, it did come out right after E.T.
Yes, I am getting to that momentarily. Let me find my screen cap. Yes, this was a truly wild time at the box office.
Yeah, we've talked before about 82 was crazy.
Yeah, summer of 82 was insane. Okay, number one that weekend was E.T. the Extraterrestrial in its third week. It made $14 million that weekend. You want to guess what number two was?
In 82?
Yeah.
No, I don't have a guess.
Blade Runner.
Oh, right.
In its first week.
That's fucking right, yeah.
Number three. Any guess? It's something you see every day on the internet. Clint Eastwood. That's going to throw you off.
It threw me off. Go ahead.
Firefox. It is Clint Eastwood stealing a Soviet jet.
And that did better than this?
That made $5.1 million this weekend in its second weekend. Number three.
That was
you're gonna
four.
You're gonna be fucking amazed.
All right,
where this movie comes in. Number three, Rocky 3, in its fifth week. Number four, Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan.
Oh man,
$4.5 million. Oh wait, that was number five. Did I say that?
You took your numbers back. You're on track.
Sorry. Okay, number six, Annie, the John Huston film.
Jeez, what a weekend.
Okay, number seven. This is a movie I definitely know you know. Poltergeist.
Oh, I love that movie.
$4.1 million. Number eight, The Thing.
Damn, there was a weekend where you could go watch E.T., Blade Runner, Poltergeist, Annie, and fucking Firefox and The Thing all.
Absolutely.
Firefox.
Closing it out.
Two of those movies are like, or three of them are like all-time faves for me.
Yeah, closing it out. There's a bunch of other nonsense that I am unaware of. Like, I do not know what the fuck it is. Like something called Megaforce.
Sounds cool.
Something called Author, and something called The Sword and the Sorcerer, which, I mean, title sounds awesome. But closing out the top 10 was a movie I remember seeing in theaters. It was the 1982 re-release of Bambi.
Oh, I think I might have seen that in theater too.
Yeah, it was summer of 82 was a wild fucking time.
Yeah, and I think I saw E.T. that weekend. I definitely saw it in the theater.
Yeah, I remember I saw E.T. in the theater. I saw Bambi in the theater. I saw Poltergeist way too young. That guy pulling his face off in the bathroom mirror.
I love Poltergeist.
That's a whole thing.
It's a great ghost movie.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Crazy week in 1982.
Yeah. So this movie made $20 million overall.
Deserves more.
So it was not a successful. Got pretty bad reviews. And then it seems like it was almost immediately reclaimed.
Interesting. I'm sure it did great in VHS sales.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the case.
Yeah. Let's rate it.
Yes.
Storyline. 10, right?
I can't fault a single aspect of the storyline. It works too well.
Perfect story. Influence. 10 probably, right?
Sure. I don't know. Weirdly, I kind of don't know how to rate this. Yeah.
It's also
absolutely.
our things aren't set up for non-cyberpunk, so it's gonna
good
prescience in A. Style, I guess we can give it a lower score.
But it's a lot of furry collars, man.
A lot of furry collar, a lot of beards. Sure, I'll give it a
nose ring.
Nose ring, that brings it up to a 6.
Yeah, it's a 6, easy.
And then 1 to 5 hand raisers, how much we liked it. I think that's an easy 5.
This is a 5 hand raisers. It is one of the least cyberpunk things we have ever seen, including fucking, what was that goddamn nonsense we watched with Edward Furlong?
Oh, yeah.
Fucking brain scan?
That brain scan is more cyberpunk than this, but we knew that going in. We didn't pretend this was cyberpunk.
It doesn't stop it from being a perfect movie.
Yeah, we love it. And it was fun.
We win. The audience wins. McCready and Childs win.
Sort of.
In their dying.
Either they're going into hibernation to eventually take over the world, or they're going to die of hypothermia. Either way, better than we've got it. Am I right?
I don't think we hung enough on Keith David's first movie.
Yeah.
Like, this motherfucker has had nothing but work since the day this came out.
Yeah, he's been a busy boy.
And I do like to think that this is, maybe a random rescue helicopter showed up, and this is, just a prequel of, his experience here turned him into Big Tim from the 2001 film Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, yeah, that's very possible. Also, perhaps helicopter rescued them.
Ass to ass.
Helicopter rescued them. McCready goes back, but just can't make it in like a normal climate. So instead of the South Pole, he goes to the North Pole and becomes Santa Claus.
Hey, here's a preview of our Christmas episode, everybody.
Sean, if you're listening, think about that.
Yeah,
Christmas Patreon. We watched the Santa Claus starring Kurt Russell. He loves it. I don't know.
I have not seen it yet. I take his word for it. That's great. Also, we failed to mention Ennio Morricone of the Sergio Leone films and many others.
Yeah,
did the score for this. It's fucking great.
Definitely in collaboration with John Carpenter, because it still feels very John Carpenter.
Apparently, Leone submitted some stuff, and Carpenter said, I was thinking more like this, and sent him a tape of like John Carpenter dicking around on a synth like he normally does.
Yeah.
And Ennio Morricone was like, responded with, okay, I can do this, but why did you want me to do this film? And John Carpenter replied with, your music... Like, your music is what I walk down the aisle to at my wedding.
Because he loves it.
Yeah. Like, weirdly sweet, and also kind of, I just want to give you, like, also kind of insulting somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. Anyway, great movie. Please go watch it if you haven't seen it.
Well, if you've listened this long. Actually, don't. If you've listened to this, I mean...
Oh.
Hey, we ruined it for you.
Eric, insert a thing at the beginning of this episode saying, if you have not seen this movie and want to see a perfect film and are okay with a little gore, go see it.
I probably won't insert that.
Oh.
They know.
They gotta know.
Our recording session duration will be reached very soon if we do not get out of here. So next week is Jason X, everybody. Join us for that. That'll be quite a change. Happy Halloween, and then let's plug our socials. We are on Twitter, Johnny60 Seconds. We're on Bluesky, where the cool kids are, at High Tech Low Life Podcast. Sorry, just High Tech Low Life.
I believe on Bluesky, I am Josh from High Tech Low
Josh from
Life.
High Tech. I think if you search for High Tech Low Life, you'll find us both probably.
Yeah.
Patreon, we have a patreon.com/High Tech Low Life, which the watch along for this probably, I think I'm going to release that tomorrow, so it should be out. And email us, hightechlifepodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. And really good luck. Enjoy fucking Jason X.
Sure.
I don't know, man. We're doing it, man. Look, anyway, I'm going to end this with a quote, like I always do, and say, yeah, fuck you too.
Okay.
Bye.
See you later.
This has been the High Tech Low Life podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds, email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music by Nihilor at nihilor.com. Thank you for listening.
Keep it moving. Come on, what are you waiting on? Let's
They're trashing our rights, man! They're trashing the fluid data! They're trashing! Hide the planet! Hide the planet!
Shut up and get in the car.